This conversation about building up your blueprint. It's time to take it cause time is wasted. Go grind and chase it, don't lose it. This generation need integration with information to move with. An inclination that is abiding in entertaining improvement.
All right, Respect My Blueprint Nation. Welcome back to another dope episode of the Respect My Blueprint podcast. As you guys already know, this is the platform on where we give you the blueprint on how to do shit around here, okay? And today's guys, we are going to talk about, you guys heard of the cliche, you can never teach an old dog new tricks, right? But we are going to possibly break that on its head today, because today my guest is going to teach us how old school marketing tactics, how he's been able to revolutionize it, and how it is still thriving and surviving in today's 2025 digital age, right? And for all of my marketing gurus out there that want to go ahead and throw shade on direct mail marketing, well, guess what? You definitely want to listen to this conversation here, because today's guest, while he's not one begging for clicks on social media, he's begging for the mailman to make sure he deliver in the mailbox. And he is the mastermind behind 3D Mail, a marketing powerhouse, direct mail marketing powerhouse. And he has helped plenty of individuals to be able to go ahead and get a high ROI on their direct mail marketing. So today, I hope you guys are ready to buckle up, because we are going to learn, again, some old age strategies on direct mail marketing and how we can go ahead and utilize it in 2025. I want to go ahead and welcome my guest today, founder and president of 3D Mail Results, Travis Lee. How you doing today, my friend?
Hey, Wesley, doing great. Excited to be here on the podcast with you. Great introduction, right? I think a lot of people think of direct mail, they think of old and stodgy, and you got to get ink on your hands and you got to get paper cuts. But we're going to talk about today how it really is relevant in today's marketplace with technology and with all the things that we can do with it. So I'm excited to be on the call today.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely going to have some edgy conversation. We're going to educate some people today to let them know that, hey, listen, direct mail is still thriving, right? But before we get into that, of course, I did my best to go ahead and give you the red carpet rollout intro, right? So if you can go ahead and bless the audience, just, quick elevator pitch of who you are, a little bit above your background. I know I said you founder and CEO of 3D Mail Results, but if you, in your own words, let the audience know a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for the great intro. My name is Travis Lee, and as you said, I'm the president and owner of 3D Mail Results. We help small and mid-sized business owners with unique, clutter-busting, just direct mail that gets attention. This isn't direct mail. This isn't boring postcards. This isn't usually the things that you see in your mailbox every single day. We call it outrageous marketing, outrageous advertising. And we actually started this business. I'll give you a little bit of the background. So this was a family business. My father and I started it together back in 2008. Okay. It actually stemmed from another business, a business that he had since sold, a business that he owned and operated and ran for 30 plus years by the time he had retired and sold it. But we used direct mail in that business to grow it. And it was a wholesale distribution business. It doesn't matter what the products were, but we had a big warehouse worth of stuff. And it was an industry that was, what's the right word? It was an industry where the status quo was to have a whole bunch of salespeople all scattered throughout the city, the region, the state, wherever you operated, these different businesses, and you pounded pavement, right? And you walked up and down the street and you worked, you sold. And that's actually how he started in the business. He was a sales rep working the pavement, moved up to sales manager. When the owner at the time couldn't pay him anymore to be just the sales manager, he offered him equity in the company. And that's eventually how he became a 49% stakeholder and then bought, at his business partner out at the time. Well, like I said, in this industry, it was very much a pound the pavement, work your leads, walk up and down the street. Again, this is 1980.
Old school. Yeah, this is old school back in the day.
Right. And so, briefcase, suits and ties, right? Everyone very formal, walking up and down the street.
Right.
And he said to himself, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a better way and a better use of our people's time. Because as you know, if anyone who's ever sold direct, there's a lot of rejection, there's a lot of no, there's a lot of work before you finally get to it, even one little yes, right?
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
And so he met this guy named Dan Kennedy. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a guru in the direct response marketing space. And he would preach direct mail. Hey, you've got to figure out how to use direct mail. You got to figure out how to use direct mail. And Keith heard him speak. Keith's my dad. And he said, all right, I'm in this industry where it is very much driven by sales reps. I don't want or need to get rid of them. It's not that. I just want to be more efficient with our time and their time. So he started testing and crafting these sales letters to go out mainly to other business owners or professional buyers, professional purchasers, right? Those were the people they were speaking with.
Okay.
First direct mail piece they sent out, they got like a 25% response rate, which is unheard of. Like
that's
that is walking
right
up to the plate in your first Major League Baseball at bat and hitting a grand slam. Like that's what that is, right?
Okay.
But he said, okay, I think I got something here. And so let's fast forward a little bit. I come to work with him at a college marketing degree. And he says, okay, I'm sure that marketing degree was great, but now I'm going to teach you how to use marketing that actually works for a small business, right? Because, I mean, anyone who's been to the universities, anyone who's been to colleges and taken, those practical business courses, there's courses that are great, accounting and money finance, right? The hard stuff is great. The soft stuff, right? The marketing, the sales, even to this day, I believe you could probably learn most of that just by getting into a business and working. But I went to college. It was great.
Yeah, school of hard knocks, right? Instead of going to school, just go through the experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so by this time, he had kind of gotten a name for using fun and unique direct mail in this industry that otherwise didn't have a lot of direct mail. Again, very sales rep heavy business. And so we started, people would ask us and we'd give free advice. We'd give unsolicited advice. We would tell them, we would refer to them how to go and do these campaigns. And then when I came to work with him, we were in it for about 18 months or so. He said, what if you started a new division where we did this as a business, right? Instead of just like casually screwing around with direct mail, we actually could, all these people that are just kind of coming to us naturally through our connections and asking how we're doing and what we're doing. What if we, turn that into a product, into a service, into a business? And now let's fast forward now to 2025 where we are today. Now we're, we started that business underneath the umbrella of the other business. But he sold that business. We now have a full marketing agency for direct mail where we're, doing the creative stuff. We're doing the implementation for them. We're taking ideas from, figments of their imagination and putting it into practice for them. And so that's, I guess that's the 6 or 8 minute version of where we've been the last 15 or so years.
I'm tuned in. You're giving me context for the conversation and everything, but it's wild because, this is a multi-generational business that your dad started, right? 20, 30 years ago. I mean, let's be honest here. 20, 30 years ago is not 2025, right?
Exactly,
Completely different era and everything like that. Like you said, everything was formal, pounding the pavement, and there was really no internet, so direct mail was the way to go. But
direct mail or picking up the phone or knocking on the door. That was about it.
And so fast forward, you get into it, which by the time you get into it, the internet's around.
For sure.
Right? So the internet.
Yep.
So, and I'm pretty sure you've seen the writing on the wall, like, okay, hey, there's Facebook ads and so this is actually the future here. So I'm building up to this question here is when you got in, you obviously seen the old is dying, the misconception we're going to iron out in this conversation, but the old is dying, the new is coming. Were you still confident in going into the business and still, taking the reins and putting all full-fledged onto this, although you had a marketing degree in college?
Yeah, I mean, we were. A lot of it has to do with, and I'm sure we'll get into this, and kind of the differentiation with how we do direct mail. Lots of people, you know what I mean? Lots of people, when they think direct mail, they think junk mail, they think flyers, they think postcards. And while we do some of those things, most of the things we have done ever since going back to in 1991 when Keith, my dad, sent that first direct mail piece out, up until now, we're doing things differently. And over the last, I would say 6 to 8 years, and especially the last 4 years or so, we've really embraced a lot of technology, and we've embraced the fact that marketing, And it hasn't been this way for a while, but it's getting even more obvious to most businesses. Marketing's
Right.
not done in a vacuum. It's not done in a silo. You don't have your social over here, and you don't have your email over here, and you don't have your television over here. Whatever you're using, as much as possible, those things need to be kind of all in the same house, and not physically like you need to be doing your own TV in your own right? But all of
Right.
those things need to kind of be connected to get the best response you can possibly
Oh,
get.
I see.
And
Yeah,
it's
I see
not
what
so
you're
much
saying.
now, okay, we send email, and now, okay, we sent that email. Now we go over here and we spin the direct mail plate, right? You want to be
Right.
spinning all those plates together. So in a perfect world, your social is propping up your direct mail, which is propping up your email, which is propping up your sales team if you've got salespeople, right? That's what we want to be a part of. We want to be a part of businesses where we call it omni-channel marketing. You could call it holistic marketing, where you are taking into the whole ecosystem of marketing and thinking, how can we use each of these things that are usually completely non-connected and put them in a connected world? And we can kind of talk about that. I'm sure you'll have questions
Of
about how we do
course.
that, but that's
Of
what we
course.
want to do, right? We want, if emailers are going out about a specific product or service, we want to have direct mail pieces showing up at the same time. If we're getting leads in the door, and we send out auto-responding emails, right? Everyone's familiar with that. Well, can we set up an autoresponder via direct mail? And the short answer is yeah, right? And you can kind of time and interconnect all these things.
Of course. Of course. Of course. Oh, so okay, I see the edge that you have now because again, which I may have let the cat out the bag on the intro a little bit, or saying, taking the new school and the old school and the new school and combining them, which that right there is the secret sauce. That's your, Big Mac sauce in order for you to be able to scale. So to ask now, my next question here to sort of also set the stage a little bit with your industry or what's some of the biggest clients you have? Is it real estate? Is it contractors? What's more in the direct mail marketing in conjunction with the new age marketing that the industries you're mainly doing? So the question is, so what's some of the main industries that's you're focusing on right now, or some of your biggest clients right now that's utilizing your services?
I mean, so lots of businesses can and should. And just because we're in their sandbox playing doesn't mean there isn't other industries to be using this. But our biggest industries we work with a lot of attorneys, mainly small, 1 to 3 attorney type offices.
Okay.
We can talk about why that may be. We work a decent amount in the B2B space. It's where we always have worked, right? So the example I gave earlier with my dad's business, it was in the B2B space. So it's where we're comfortable. It's where we work almost exclusively. I've never owned a consumer-facing business. So we do a lot in the B2B space. This is now ticking back up, but pre-COVID, we did a ton of stuff for people who put on events. So let's say you want to go and put on a marketing boot camp and you want a bunch of people in a hotel ballroom, or you want to put together a mastermind group, or you want to, right? So a lot of coaches and consultants, right? So we work with a lot of them. Went a little bit away with COVID because you couldn't put people into a hotel room for about a year and a half, depending on where you were. So we work with there. But really, we work with any kind of business that wants to have repeatable, successful direct mail where it's not what I call episodic. It's not marketing by accident, right? So many people do marketing and they say, crap, we need customers, right? And so then they do something and then they hopefully get some customers and then they have to fulfill the customers and then they're right back to where, oh crap, we need customers again, right? And so what we try to do is set people up on these systems, on these mailers that, again, coincide with things that are going on in their business already, but repeatable, predictable, systematic. Again, think of, I have an autoresponder with my email. I don't MailChimp, Constant Contact, whoever it is. How can we help a customer or a client be systematic about their direct mail and then also tie it into those other things that we can and should be doing around the direct mail? So things like that. That's what we're looking for. So it might be new movers for a dentist. It might be customer acquisition in the B2B space. All of those are kind of places where we're helping customers do those things.
Okay. Awesome. You have a wide range, because typically I'll be honest, when I was thinking about, with all due respect, like the junk mail you mentioning, I'm thinking about the real estate agents. Hey, you want to sell your home, looking to buy your house or something like that. So, but you've definitely opened up my eyes, as well as the audience as well too, that, hey, this is something that's just not a segmented market that could take advantage of this. This is really opened up to a lot of different businesses and a lot of different industries out there. So, okay, now let me ask you a question. So in the world of direct mail, okay, how have you been able to go ahead and incorporate social media into it? Obviously with the social media campaign. So was that a tough transition, or that was just something like, hey, no, this is social media is the trend. This is how we need to do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Social media is there. It's not going away. It is growing. It is, while direct mail isn't necessarily dying, but it is shrinking, right? I'll admit that, right? We send less mail mainly because we send less personal mail. Right? You don't send birthday invites anymore. You get on a text thread and you invite everybody on a text, right?
Okay. I see the point you're making.
You create Facebook groups for the surprise 40th birthday party for your husband, right? Those are the things we do now. Instead of sending out invites, we also don't pay bills by check and mail them in as much anymore, right? Maybe my parents or my grandparents do, but by and large, most people, they're going to the bank, paying off. So there's less mail because we're just sending out less of that kind of stuff. But with social media now, the way, I will admit, direct mail kind of through the turns went through kind of all right, we are here, we're here to stay, but how can we embrace technology so that we're not seen as old and stodgy and a fuddy-duddy, right? And so now with a lot of the direct mail that we do, we can actually, let's say we want to get a list. Let's say we're a dentist. Everybody knows a dentist. Everyone goes to the dentist. I think most people listening to this have a general idea of how a dentist office works, right? So let's talk about a dentist office. So we want to go and get new patients. And let's say we're in a fairly large market and we want to get all of the new movers. So everyone who just bought a new home or moved into a new home or apartment or whatever, those are lists that we can get. And we buy a list of people who are married and have a certain income, but just moved into the area. Now we can take that same list, all of the Bettys and Bobs and Tammys and Sallys and Tims and Johns. We can take that list and we can send them a direct mail list, right? But what we can also do now is we can take that same list, we can upload it to a couple different platforms, mainly Meta and Google, and we can now serve those exact same people ads before the direct mail even shows up, when it shows up, and then show them those same ads after it shows up. So now let's say we're sending a direct mail piece. It says, welcome to the neighborhood. Hi, I'm Dr. Tom, and I specialize in blah, 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 blah. And I do, we do general dentistry work. Come in for your first free appointment as a welcome to the neighborhood offer, right? Well, now we can put that offer in print, but over here we can show up in their Facebook feeds. We can show up in their Instagram feeds. We can show up on the Google Display Network. And so now the day we drop that mail off at the post office, they can start seeing ads in their social media feed with the same message, the same imagery, the same everything, the same call to action, the same offer, right? So if it's a free appointment, come in for your free x-rays and welcome to the neighborhood, we can put that in their Facebook page. These can be videos, these can be images. So we could have a video of the doctor inviting them to the neighborhood and coming on in. And so when I talked at the very beginning about you don't want your marketing in silos, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You can, the number used to be 5 to 7 touches before somebody will make a buying decision on you. Now it's probably 10 or 11 or 12. Well, now we're multiplying those touch points. And so they see our ad. They might not think about it too much. The direct mail piece shows up. Now we're literally in their home, in their hand, face, looking at it. And then they go back to Facebook and they see that. Then if they go to our website, we can do retargeting with them. We can have tracking phone numbers on the direct mail piece, so we know that they called directly from that direct mail piece. We even have what are called personal QR codes now. So everyone knows what a QR code is now.
Of course. Right.
Well, now we can personalize those. So a QR code used to be static, right? It's up on the wall. You scan it. Okay, we got 50 scans this week or whatever it might be. Right. Well, now we can personalize those. So we know that Bob scanned it or Tammy scanned it or Bill scanned it.
Oh, so you could collect the data on it.
Exactly. And so now we know who's scanning. We could make things now where they go, if they scan, they hop over to a different kind of campaign, and now they get they can maybe get another direct mail piece. Depending on your industry, you could maybe pick up the phone and call them, right? If little bit of wiggle room in there with the calling if it's a prospect list versus a client
Or
list,
a hot
but
lead or something like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
But that's kind of now you're seeing where you can take, that's just one point where we can take social media where we know the eyeballs are, use direct mail, and now we're at something where 2 + 2 equals something more than 4. Because we're getting the exposure, we're getting all those eyeballs, we're getting tactically in their hand. And then, like I said, for about 10 years, direct mail was kind of in this no man's land. Now we have the technology where we can track phone numbers, we can track QR codes right down to the individual tracker, the individual scanner of those QR codes. And then so now in our dentist world, we get that list, we do it this month, we get the next list, we do it the next month. And now you're systematizing a marketing campaign where hopefully that dentist is spending X dollars, and over the relative short term, they're going to collect something greater than those X dollars that they spent, right? So there's, most people think marketing, and you probably know this, marketing's an investment, right? And sometimes there's short-term returns and sometimes there's long-term returns, right? And so that dentist might not see a positive return maybe till the second visit because they had to do something enticing to get them in. But now every visit after that, they're making money. And now let's say we wanted to target just moms in a neighborhood. So now we know there's mom. So if they're mom, they got at least one kid. We could say we want them to be married. And now if we get mom in the door, guess where everybody else goes in at some point, right? Exactly. And so that's kind of this, again, to use the dental example, because everyone gets dentists. That's how you could take something like this and systematize it, use different media to bring them together, and then technology to track it and know if you're getting any traction and kind of track your results in a real-time way so that dentist can say, okay, we got 6 calls this week. I know that 6 patients in 6 months are going to be worth whatever that money is. And now it's just a question of how many times can I put that dollar in the slot machine if it's a positive number for me.
Absolutely. So, and man, so the key, of course, is just being omnipresent. And that's what's
a lot of that
part of the Big Mac sauce right there, right? And I get it. That's actually genius because number one, first of all, I want to say it's kind of spooky, right? Because it's like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm watching my social media feed. I see an ad and all of a sudden I get a direct mail piece correlating to the same thing. You're probably thinking, man, does these social media companies have have they tapped into my line of thinking? But I see the strategy, and that's so genius because what you're doing is ultimately like supercharging platforms like you said, MailChimp and these other marketing platforms, because these platforms, although they're exclusively digital, you're merging two fields, two technologies, and conflating them to hyperdrive marketing, like you say, moving away from that silo campaign and everything. So that's really, really dope. And let me ask you, is this strategy, is this like a proprietary strategy only like you guys use, or is there's a lot in your marketplace that's exercising this?
There are we don't own this technology. So in our group of direct mail world, there are different companies that offer this kind of service. And so, I'm not trying to tell anybody, hey, this is proprietary and you might as well just call me Steve Jobs because we own all this technology, right? No, there's companies out there that are working with Google, working with Meta, right? And then they're flipping around and saying, basically they're interconnectors, and we lease a seat at the table and say, hey, we want to offer this product or service. Now, there's not a lot of people that are doing it. And there's not a lot of people willing to do it because, again, direct mail, kind of old, kind of stodgy. There's kind of some old people in it that are kind of like, nope, I only do direct mail. That's all I do. We put ink on paper and we send it out the door, right? So, again, I don't want to pretend that we're like, we've got this secret sauce background that we're the only people in the world that have it, but there aren't a whole lot that do it. So it is something where if you're thinking about doing direct mail, it is something to at least ask people, hey, do you know anything about this integrated technology where I can send direct mail and serve them ads online at the same time, essentially? So, that's
awesome.
That's it in a nutshell.
Awesome. So what would you tell a new entrepreneur getting into their entrepreneurship journey, the importance of incorporating direct mail into their marketing campaign?
That's a great question. So if I were starting out a new business right now, I probably, and this may go against what most people think, I probably wouldn't use direct mail right away for cold reach out, for customer acquisition, for that kind of stuff right away.
Okay.
Where I would concentrate that stuff, at least to start, and some of it depends on the business. Some of it's going to depend on, we haven't even talked about mailing lists. Most of that answer is going to depend on what mailing lists are available and how can we get them. One of the reasons we work with a lot of attorneys is because of the mailing lists that we can get. But let's just say general run-of-the-mill guy, maybe they're selling, let's talk about pickleball, right? So they run an e-com pickleball store, right? Because pickleball's all the rage right now. Everyone wants to do pickleball now. Well, so there are a lot of ways that I can sell my pickleball stuff online, right? Lots of ways. We could do 1,000 different things. And then I would think of that, okay, how can I get a customer? So I'm going to make a sale to get a customer, not get a customer to make a sale. So we're kind of flipping that mindset, right? Because now I've got a customer and I know they're interested in our case, pickleball. Now, what are the things that I could do with that person, both online and offline, direct mail specifically, to get them to move up the purchase ladder? Right. So that, I mean, the thing that you learn on marketing 101 class day one, if they're buying peanut butter and not jelly, you better offer them jelly. Right. I mean, do you want fries with that? Right. That is like, that's like the ultimate, that's first day of marketing at any college in the country. Peanut butter and jelly. Do you want fries with that? Right. Upsells and cross sells. That's what you learn day one. Okay, so what are the ways now that I can communicate with that customer in an offline way? So if they buy whatever peanut butter might be in pickleball, right? So I guess that's a paddle, right? Or maybe a paddle and a set of the little wiffle balls they use. Well, now what's the next thing? What's the cross sell? What's the upsell? I can do that obviously with upsells on the page. I could do it in an email funnel, but you can also do those things via direct mail. So it could be something as simple as you got to deliver the product. Inside the box with the product is a sales offer for like the cross sell or the upsell. And then a week later, a direct mail piece can go out with another cross sell or a different upsell, right? Do they have opportunities to refer? One of the things we do a decent amount in home services, right? So roofing and windows and gutters and shingles, right? That kind of stuff, right? Repair or replace your home stuff. And a lot of times we're talking about, okay, if we get a customer in one area, how can we turn that one customer into multiple customers around them, right? Because, okay, if you needed a new roof, chances are your neighbor's going to need a new roof relatively soon.
Eventually, right?
Now, unless the tree came down on it, right? If the tree came down on it, okay. But okay, so now can I use radius mailers for those people? So I got a house, I got a customer, birds of a feather flock together. They're going to kind of be, if there's a good customer there who bought from me, they're very likely to be surrounded by other customers who would be good for me. So how can I turn that one customer into other customers? Now that's a home services industry, right? So that's like, again, if your windows are going bad, everybody in the neighborhood's windows are probably about the same age and they're probably going bad too. So and so that's kind of if I was just starting out, absent any other knowledge, again, now if you told me in a specific industry where I knew we could get a mailing list that worked, then I'd say, well, let's do direct mail and let's see what we can do. But absent all those other things, I would use it to cross-sell, upsell, grow that client base so that customer becomes repeat, buys from you all the time. You become the person they go to for your thing. That's how I would, if I was going to start from scratch with a business like that.
Understood. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense right there, and now I actually want to transition to the next question, because going in as a new entrepreneur, which, you kind of mentioned this a little bit, building a mailing list. So I want to see how would your strategy with the direct mail as well as the online marketing, how would an entrepreneur or someone utilize it to build their mailing list?
Yeah, great question. The value of most businesses is in that customer list, the mailing list, the relationship with the list, right?
Right.
Yeah, you can sell widgets and products and services, and there's value to that, but the value is in the customer and the customer itself, right? And that list of them.
Right.
So a couple of things. First off, if you've got to be collecting data from your leads, from your prospects all the time, right? So you're getting a lead form. Let's say you're going online and you're going to have your free lead magnet, your free widget, right? The free thing that brings those people into you if you just give me your email address, right? That's how most people think. So they come in, they get a lead, we get an email address. Well, how quickly can we, can on the very next page, could we say, That's awesome. You did great. Here's something I want to send you in the mail. It's only a couple bucks, but you got to give me your mailing address and a credit card number, right? And maybe the credit card, maybe it's $2, $5, $9. It's all dependent on what the product is in the industry and that kind of stuff. But a low cost thing that I have to send you. So now I have a reason to collect your data.
Right.
So we're always trying to collect that data. What are the, sometimes a lot of the things that we'll do first if we're bringing on a new client, they say, hey, I've got an email list, but I don't have a mailing list, right? So I don't have anything. I can't drop anything in the mail form.
Right.
I can only send them email.
So
there's a couple different things we could do, right? So maybe we go out to them and we say, hey, I've got this new low cost thing. I want to send it to you. It's X amount of dollars. And all you got to do is buy this amazing thing right here and let me know your shipping address so I can send it to you. And now that's a way we could go and get a whole bunch of mailing addresses from a client that maybe only has email addresses.
Gotcha.
Talking about technology. Let's say, again, we only have and we can get into how did we even get these names to begin with? But let's say we only have a list of names and email addresses, and we gave them the thing that we want to offer, and a certain amount of percentage of people took that.
Okay.
Well, we can also now take that data, and if we have a first name, a last name, and an email talking about the technology, we can go and match those up to a mailing address. So we can say 𝗥𝗲𝗋𝗦𝗲@.com, and we can match a mailing address to that. Now, you're not going to match 100%. In fact, you usually match 30 to 60%. And then we verify the addresses. So we get the addresses, and then we verify them. Okay, that address is there, and that person is very likely at that address.
Right.
Now we have a mailing address, right? So that's another way you could go about, okay, I've already got this list. How can I get more information from it? Data is king, right? Data, information, that is like the
new goal.
You're exactly, yeah, that was the analogy. I was going to say oil, but that is the 21st century equivalent of the oil runs and the gold rush of the 1800s, right? That is absolutely. So the more data you get, the better. And those are just some of the ways that you could do it. Obviously, you can do lead generation marketing to get people in the top of that funnel and work them down through the sales process.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, there's lots of different ways to do that. But from a direct mail, like again, if I was going to work with a client and they said, hey, I want to mail these folks, but I don't know how to mail them. I don't have addresses. Those would be my first two strategies. Is how can we get, first off, how can they voluntarily give us their information?
Give us their information, right.
That's the best, right?
Obviously.
And then from there, can we use technology and data to then? And so we're working with a client right now. They're a products company, but they're like, I can't think of the name right now. They're one of those companies that, a high percentage of their dollars gets donated right back to charities and good causes, right? So goodwill companies, right? Tommy Two Shoes, I think, is one of those types of companies, right? So whatever.
Right. Okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
So we're working with them. So they sell a lot of relatively low cost things for a high price, right? Because we're going to give 80% of that money to the charities and causes that we work with. Well, they've got this list of data, and now we've got to figure out what to do with it, right? Because they've got the data, but the data doesn't mean anything until we do something with it. Absolutely, so now we take their client list, and we're able to, in the same manner that we took their email list and matched up data, same way we take their mailing address because they bought from us, and we run what's called a regression analysis, and it'll come back and tell us all the commonalities of these clients. So it'll give us a range of their age, their income, their marital status, what kind of cars they drive, what kind of things they're interested in, right? And so now we can, and then on top of it, it'll tell us whether it's statistically significant. And I always bundle that. If it's statistically significally, it'll be like a red bolded number. Exactly, right? So again, I'm going back to college. Okay, that's a word I remember, statistically significant, right? And so now, okay, so that means that this, that's a good thing, and it's a thing that I should use to then flip around and go buy another mailing list of those same people, right? Because your good customers are going to have a lot of commonalities. And so what are those important commonalities? And then we can go flip around and go buy a same mailing list of those people with the same commonalities. So we're doing it with this social driven company that I'm working with. We're doing it with a small boutique gym. This is not 24-hour fitness, where you're paying $9.99 a month. This is, I think they're about $197 a month, $200 a month, right? So we're going after business owners, executives, CEOs, people making a decent amount of money.
Right.
And so we're doing that same thing. We take their information from one of their good franchises, figure out all the commonalities. And then when they open up new franchises, we go over there and we buy that same list and drive them into the studio. So that's, again, how you can use data to grow that list.
Absolutely. Which, like you mentioned, data is absolutely king, because especially nowadays, you want to be able to accumulate of that much data, and you can repurpose it. You can plug it into not just in automations, but different campaigns. And there you'll be able to go ahead and personalize your message, your ad campaigns to out of a lot of different businesses, or just your clientele out there, right? Or prospects. Now, let me ask you one final question is, how have your strategy helped increase the ROI for businesses' sales teams, right? Because I could imagine your strategy obviously is the top of the funnel, right? We're going to collect as much data. We're going to be able to increase your campaigns where you can now funnel it to your sales team to be able to go ahead and book more appointments or and things like that. So if you could share that a little bit, that could, because I want to give as much value to the audience. So if you could just touch on that topic right there.
No, that's a great question. So one of the things that we encourage a lot of people to do when they're doing direct mail, and this could be for cold reach out, it could be for, again, for the peanut butter and jelly folks, it could be for the upsells, the cross sells, the down sells, right? So what we like to do, if they have a sales team, right? And now when I say sales team, most of the people we work with who have a sales team are typically going to be in the business to business space. They're going to be selling to other businesses by and large. Now, there are some big companies, consumer-facing companies that we work with that do have sales teams, but most of our clients are in the B2B space when we're talking sales teams. Now, having said that, it's not that much of a difference. So what I'm going to explain to you, what I'm going to explain to you can be used in the B2B or B2B space. So one of the things that we like to do is send out really fun, creative direct mail. Right. And so we've sent out vinyl bank bags. We've sent out pill bottles. We've sent out trash cans. I've got one here. It just happens to be sitting here on my desk. We send out these fake express envelopes, right?
That look like real envelopes. That's genius right there. Right. I like that.
And so now what we do is we send out this fun direct mail piece, right? That can't be ignored. That's going to be remembered. Okay. And now let's say we've got that sales team behind it. Now they're dialing. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a client, we ran a very similar campaign up to what I've explained so far.
Right.
I guess he'd be a competitor in a way. He is an advertising agency for small and mid-sized banks. So this is not Chase or Bank of America. This is, Teachers
Credit Union around the corner.
Union of Texas. Like exactly. Okay. And so he had sales team. He had sales guys that would work LinkedIn and they would work the phones. And they would work LinkedIn and they would work the phones. And that's what they did. So now what we're doing is we're sending a direct mail piece that cannot be ignored, very likely in his scenario, to 2 or 3 or 4 different decision makers in that bank. So it could be the president, it could be the CEO, and it could be a director of marketing, let's say in this example. So they're getting this fun, unique direct mail that can't be ignored. 2 or 3 or 4 of them in an office are getting it all at once. And now their sales team is following up. Now, let's say I sent this fun envelope out. So it's if you're just listening, it's an envelope made to look like an express mail envelope, like a priority mail envelope, but isn't, right? So it looks like a FedEx, it looks like a priority mail envelope. And now they dial up that same person they were going to cold call anyway. And they say, hey, I'm Wesley from the marketing agency for small banks and credit unions. I sent you a piece of mail a couple days ago. And it looked like this. And now they're thinking, okay, I got that. Yeah, of course I got that. I can't ignore it. It's the only thing that's ever been sent to me in 20 years that looks like that.
Right. It caught my attention.
Exactly.
Right?
And what very likely happened is they got it. They looked at some amount of it. And then it went into the I'll look at this later pile.
Set it to the side pile. Yes. Right. I'll deal with it later.
And now that phone call is bringing that thing back up to the top of the list. And now as salespeople have an easy intro to make instead of just, hi, I'm Wesley. Do you want to hear my pitch?
And then you get the standard, I'm busy, call you later, or send me an email or whatever the case may be.
100%. And so now they can have a conversation. I sent you this. Did you get it? And so at least for that first 30 seconds, it's not exactly like you said. Who are you? What? No, I'm busy. Click. Right. At least there's now a foot that we can kind of gently slide into that door to maybe get them to listen to us for a minute. And this is called what we call a Dream 100 campaign. I first read about it in The Ultimate Sales Machine, I think it was, by Chet Holmes. And his whole idea was get a list of your Dream 100 clients or customers, prospects, I guess I should say, because they're prospects.
Right.
Who are the best Dream 100 people you could possibly work with? Send them a direct mail piece, give them a phone call, send them emails, show up at their place of business, whatever you can afford to do, and then do it again the next month, right? And you just kind of repeat this process for 3 or 4 months until you finally get a yes or a no from all 100 of those people, right? But at least you've been in front of, and for most of our clients that do that, they're usually working in the, if we just get one ballpark. If we just get one of these clients,
will make up the rest of the,
that's usually how it works. Not always, but usually. Now, again, you could take that same idea. We were working with a client. They sell prepaid vacations, right? So when you go in for $120, you get the 6-night stay at the Best Western in Orlando, right? And so they're doing that kind of stuff. They had an entire room full of salespeople, like sales-driven business. All those guys getting commission, all those gals getting commissions. We want to send a direct mail piece ahead of that. So again, if they're dialing for dollars, they can at least say, hey, we put that new offer in the mail for you. It came in this really cool thing. Now, they're maybe not sending the bank bags, but they're sending something else that is
colorful, catchy, that's
and appropriate for the price, appropriate for the price of the thing they're selling. And so now if they're dialing for dollars, hey, we sent you that exclusive invitation. It had that cool envelope with an invite, and you opened it up and it had the blah, blah, blah offer in it. Now, again, they can now have an entry point, and that's a consumer-based business, right? Okay. Again, let's use our dentist. You have patients who haven't come in 6 months, lost patients, right? If they come in every 6 months, right? So now we could send out 15 of those a week, and a person in the office who is usually making reminder phone calls can add these 15 mail. Hey, we sent you a boomerang in the mail last week because we want you to come back into the office, right? And so even if you don't have a sales team, you got one person making 15 calls a day, you can use this to prop up all those other things.
So it's a good icebreaker, in other words. And you're perfect. You're right, because where spam calls and robocalling and everything like that, and just honestly, even in 2025, where just scams are very high, right? Because nowadays people get a lot of text messages that just scamish, and then you don't know.
Automated phone calls, emails, all of it. And
of course, they're getting more and more creative. Now the latest thing is the toll. People are getting texts and say, hey, you owe this on toll and everything like that. But to have an icebreaker where you get, again, because there's nothing that's more, I wouldn't say that brings credibility than getting a piece of mail, right? Because you may get a scam phone call, but something in the mail where it's like, okay, hey, this is cool. Check this out. Oh, wow, that's pretty neat. And then you get a follow-up call behind it. Now it's like, oh, wow.
Or a text, or an email, or a social media ad. All of it, they add up. We didn't talk about it much, but I have somewhere here in my notes. I printed off right before. It's something like consumers trust direct mail advertising like 79% more than just regular digital advertising.
Makes
right? The thing is, I've got to touch it, hold it, feel it. These guys can't be scammy because of look at the work they did to get this
put into it, right?
Exactly. And so when you can combine those things, I mean, it's a great point, is when you can combine those things, that physical analog touch adds a legitimacy where now the BS meter doesn't maybe go off quite as
exactly. Now it's like, and again, when, like you say, when you follow up with the phone call or with the sales team, now it's like, boom. The dialing for dollars now is definitely looking like a whole, making a lot of dollars. Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's go back. I'll tell you one more quick story. I'll make it brief, I promise. But I talked about my dad using the direct mail, right? Way at the beginning now. So 45 or so minutes ago, wherever we're at. So the direct mail worked for a long time all on its own. And then we had to add a phone call behind it for it to then, right? So you see your response go down. And then we added a phone call to it, and whoop, the phone that went almost back up to where it was.
Yeah,
right? And so and now that we had to figure that out on our own. Like, All right, response rates are going down. What do we do? Well, why don't we like do the thing that we used to do, which is just maybe call them to see if they got the mail, right?
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like,
Okay.
duh.
Like the light bulb goes off.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
And so we send direct mail, a phone call goes out a week later, and now we're getting the response right back where we were. So that's, that's the game you got to kind of play. So it's always trying, testing, tweaking. I've got a client now, he's an attorney. We're probably on iteration 40 of his direct mail piece. And some of them have been small changes and some of them have been major changes. But because we can track, we know what our response rate is. We have our floor, right? Now, how do we get it to go from 0.1% 3.1 ROI to 3.5, from 3.5 to 4.6, right? And so we're looking to incrementally bring that floor up. That's what we're looking at. And sometimes it's not incrementally. Sometimes there's a big jump in there, but we're always testing and tweaking things for that particular client. Now, he's kind of an outlier. He's testing things and he's got metrics and he's got all of his own stuff. It doesn't need to be 40 iterations. It can be 2, right? So
gotcha. Okay. All right. So Al, man, one final question before we wrap up, because I'm glad today's episode was able to educate the audience significantly in direct mail and how they need to incorporate it within their marketing to be able to turbocharge even their digital marketing, which I'll be honest with you, this is something I was unaware of, and I want to go ahead and connect with you on too. But what I want to mention, if there's any piece of advice that you would give the audience to build their blueprint, you can go ahead and leave the audience with in order to build their marketing blueprint, what that would be.
I think the biggest thing, and I come back to this more and more often, is who is your ultimate customer? And know that person infinitely well. Know everything about them. Who's your avatar and who it is. Now, people sometimes confuse that with, okay, if I have a avatar, I can only have one avatar. For marketing, you can have an avatar for anything that you may be offering, right? So specific products or services, right? So if we've got 4 different products, who is the avatar? Who is the person for that product? And now I am solely focused for that person on that product. So you can have, I think a lot of people get that confused. I have to have an avatar, and it has to be a man 35 to 40 who makes X amount of dollars and does these things on the weekends. That's the only person I can have. Well, that's the only person you can and should have for this activity, for this product, for this service. Now we want to do this thing. Now I need an avatar for that person. Now there might be a lot of crossover and there might not be any crossover, right? So with every time you think about what is my offer, what am I putting together, who is my ideal client or prospect for that thing? And again, you can have multiple of those avatars just right to that one person every time you're doing it, right? So that's the biggest thing. Who's your who, but you can have multiple who's. Just in terms of marketing, we want to be in that who right now for that person. But then we can switch to the other who later. But for that exact moment in time, that's our who. You got it.
And lock in on it. Man, that's tremendous right there. And that's something that I'm glad you shared that, because it's easy for a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs. You're overflowing with passion and energy, and you want to be the serial entrepreneur sometimes, or you want to be able to tackle so many boxes or check so many boxes at once. But hey, sometimes that can be the detriment. That can be the one thing that could, put us in a pitfall, especially coming out of the gate, right? You want to lock in one segment, dominate it, before you're able to go ahead and spread yourself to other areas. And
spreading too thin is one of the number one things. And spreading too thin with marketing, with time, with money, like spreading yourself too thin, I think is the number one. We try to do too many things at once rather than just doing 2 or 3, especially when you're starting, the 2 or 3 things that I am really good at. And let's do those 2 or 3 things.
Right. So. Awesome. Well, listen, Travis, today has been a dope episode. You have been able to educate not just the audience, but myself, because listen, I was one of those guys too to think like, man, direct mail, are you serious? Hold on, wait a minute. No, man, that's like the only thing I check the mailbox for is like bills and things like that, right? But sharing how potent, how direct mail marketing can be when you combine it with your digital and online marketing strategy and also tie in your sales team behind it. Man, you can really supercharge and do some great things on, scaling your company, growing your company, and just taking your marketing to another heights that most people haven't even imagined. So thank you for sharing that. I'm pretty sure the audience, after hearing this, they probably rethinking and recalibrating their thoughts. So they want to probably reach out to you, maybe even partner up with you on helping to build their campaign. So number one, if you could share, first of all, do you have anything that's coming out, a book, a webinar, an event, or anything that they can check out, share with the audience?
Yeah. So the best thing they can do, I'm holding it up here on the video. If you're out watching on video, it's my book, the simple 3-step process that ensures direct mail success. So if you've been paying attention, this shouldn't be anything new. Go to my website, my name, Travis A. Lee. So Travis A, my middle initial A, Lee. And you can get a book. It's $3, technically $2.97. So I'm giving you a low-cost offer to give me a mailing address so I can send you something. And then maybe or maybe not, you might see some multi-channel, multimedia marketing sent to you once you do that. So maybe you can kind of see what we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes or an hour. So that's travisalee.com. So I practice what I preach. Low cost offer, give me your address. I'm going to send you something of value. And then hopefully you can see some of the multimedia marketing that we do behind that. It'll be emails, it'll be direct mail, it'll be phone calls.
Awesome.
I don't want to give it all away.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can go there.
See the magic at work.
You got it.
Just for a small nominal cost, $2.97, you guys can actually experience it in real time, as Travis and his team is going to be able to go ahead and, check them out. You're going to check them out on social media. You got to go ahead and get some things. Okay, man. Travis, I like how you're all in my feed here. Let me go ahead and hire you. All right.
Yep. That's the goal.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So that'd be the best, travisalee.com. And if you don't want a book, you just want to check me out. My website is 3D Mail Results. So that's the number 3, the letter D, MAILRESULTS.com. And I assume those will be in the show notes or a link or somewhere wherever you're watching this. So check out those links in wherever you're watching.
Absolutely, guys. And of course, again, all of the links that Travis has just mentioned, the link to his book, the link to his website, as well as his social media is all going to be on the description here. Do check out Travis and his team over at 3D Mail Results. Like, this is a way you're leaving money on the table, guys, if you're not being able to leverage all forms of marketing. We all know about paid ads. We all know about organic ads. We all know about, email campaigns, but this is a new twist here. Me being a millennial born in the 80s, I remember where mail was dominating. So if we can still bring some of those old tricks to be able to go ahead and, like I said, leverage into bringing us in new heights here, I highly recommend it for you guys. But Travis, thanks for having a dope episode today. I think the audience, at the end of the day, they won because they got the tremendous value on how to be able to build their blueprint and building their business to the next level, my friend. So with that being said, listen, guys, you can check out the podcast every Monday, every Friday, where we bring dope guests like Travis to be able to help you with your blueprint on how to do shit. All right. And as always, guys, we are going to catch you on the flip side. Take care and be safe out there. Peace.
Blueprint. This conversation about building up your blueprint. It's time to take it, cause time is wasted. Go grind and chase it, don't lose it. This generation need integration with information to move with. An inclination that is abiding in entertaining improvement. Yep, 𝗥𝗲𝗋 with blueprint. This guests are exclusive. Get on and tune in and then learn some new tips about credit, finance, investment. A nice chance to get rich and buy land. Flip it, quick 9 bands. Learn all the skills from Wes, he did it. Learn how to build successful business. Run up a mill and get the digits. Run up a mill. Look, safe place where guests are speaking. Based off financial freedom. All facts, no cap, believe it. Podcast, you have to see it.